For the farm housewife, the highway leads now to the modern shopping center, to the variety of goods and services she never had before.
Since the end of World War II, we're exposed to more chemicals and drugs than any other people that have ever lived.
Through science and technology, convenience food.
Fermentation definitely took a back seat post-World War II with the advent of widespread refrigeration.
Industrial agriculture, chemical agriculture, processing, ultra-processing of foods in a way that has never happened before.
Now, any American can get amazing Midwestern beef. And while lots of people thought that was a good thing at the time, we're kind of learning that we shouldn't have eschewed these traditional practices.
History teaches that a nation grows according to its agriculture.
I'm David Zilber, and this is Gut Health on Masterclass.
In this class, you'll learn how the forces of industrialization have caused a deterioration of our microbiome and how to rebuild our microbiome back to health.
All these are situations the microbes have never really seen before. This is probably at the core of many chronic diseases that we face today. Coronary vascular disease to neurodegenerative diseases like Parkinson's and Alzheimer's to non-alcoholic fatty liver disease to colon cancer, all of which have increased significantly in the last 75 years. They all have moved to younger and younger age groups with their onset. And we have all these medications for blood pressure, for high cholesterol, for hyperlipidemia, but they're not really dealing with the root cause of this problem.
Processed foods are basically just the assembly of different pieces of food that have been purified back into a whole food product. But in that reassembly process, we come nowhere close to assembling something that's like a real piece of produce. And one of the things that defines processed foods is that they have a long shelf life, that they don't go bad quickly. And so for that to, be a property of the food, you have to include chemicals that will basically keep microbial life from growing. And so all of that is really kind of problematic for the microbiome.
As we were studying the role of diet on the microbiome, we started realizing that people that ate bad diets were having bad microbiomes, and we couldn't help but think about our own diet. We opened up our fridge and noticed that our crisper drawers were pretty barren. There was a lot of brightly packaged food in our pantry, convenience food. I mean, we're parents, we were just trying to make life easy. So we really cleaned out our pantry, got rid of all the brightly colored packaged food, and made sure that our crisper drawer was always filled with as many fruits and vegetables as we could possibly fit in there.
So if you just write down at every meal the plants you're eating, that's a good way of just starting to get a feel for whether you have a diet that's microbiome friendly. So people may be asking themselves, when I go shopping and I start looking at the different items down all the aisles, what are some things that are good? What are some things that are bad?
If it's consumed in moderation, coffee is good for the gut, packed with polyphenols, these large molecules that are relevant for the brain-gut connection. Mushrooms, valuable source of polyphenols, of vitamins, of protein with low caloric density.
They're a fungus, and so they bring carbohydrates there that you wouldn't find anywhere else. It's a great meat substitute because they can be really hearty.
If you take all the beneficial components of a diet, mushrooms have it. Naturally fermented cheeses are a great source of a whole variety of microbes that interact with our gut microbiome. So each cheese, and you can tell from the smell that they have, from the aroma, has different microbial compositions in it. And most of the microbes are in the rind of the cheese. So if you buy the cheese and they cut off the rind, you don't get the full benefit. For an infant or for a child, great source of nutrients, calcium. It's not a good food for adults.
There is evidence that if you condition your gut microbiome to be based around a plant-based diet, you can actually eat red meat once in a while and you won't have the harmful chemicals produced by the gut microbiome because it is a plant fiber conditioned gut microbiome that doesn't possess the capacity to create that harmful chemical.
There's a lot of evidence that wine, especially red wine consumption, is beneficial. How that impacts the microbiome is unknown, but again, wine is a fermented food, and so it could be that there are aspects of the fermentation process that provides molecules to wine that help make it more healthy.
Beer, there's a lot of evidence now that too much alcohol can be very bad for our health, so sticking to something like 2 drinks a week is kind of what's recommended now. Beer is beneficial from the standpoint of the social interactions a lot of times that go along with it, and we know social interactions are incredibly important. Water is incredibly important, of course, for your body for staying hydrated, but it's also important for proper gut function. So if you don't drink enough water, it's an easy way to become constipated and for your gut microbiome to be in a non-healthy state.
Overall, if I had to identify anything in our diet, sugar would be the worst. If you're anxious and stressed, people tend to eat an unhealthier diet with high fat and high sugar, because on the short term, they actually reduce the anxiety. So it's self-medication. But in the long term, it makes the problem worse and worse. So you become hooked to the sugar and hooked to the fat.
One of the really tricky things is that food companies have taken healthy foods and they've changed them in ways so that they taste really delicious to us. But in doing so, these food companies have eroded all of the health benefits of the food.
It's important to understand what makes us satisfied when we eat food. Now, taste is Darwinian. We've evolved to seek out the things that our body need in the environments we grew up in. We love meat and sugar and fat because historically, those were very rare ingredients that took a lot of work and effort to procure. Vegetables and tubers might have sustained the majority of humanity, gathered by many women and tribes over generations, but that stapleness kind of fell into the background as they were the more common foods. In the same way that I talk about the fermentation crock being humanity's second stomach or second gut, ultra-processed foods kind of also mimic that, but without any of the benefits of having life having lived through your food. It is ultimately the pre-digestion of food without any of the other added benefits of digestion. When your own body breaks down whole ingredients, it produces flights of metabolites that act as signalings to regulate blood sugar or satiety. When you eat ultra-processed foods, the molecules that might make up a vegetable are pummeled into submission, broken up to the point where your body might not even recognize them, and they're taken up in your small intestine extremely quickly. This never triggers your body to kind of feel that it's full, and you eat more. Generally, people on diets of ultra-processed foods eat lots more calories than those who eat contingents of whole foods. How do we take vegetables then and make them as delicious as all of the above? Well, to me, the answer is fermentation. This is tempeh, a ferment from Indonesia, which sees soybeans soaked, then boiled, then inoculated, kind of fermented, if you will, with a fungus that binds those individual beans into a whole cake that is rich in protein, super healthy for you, and delicious to eat once seared. That's going to be kind of the protein for this dish, and the vegetables are going to be the accompanying orchestra, if you will. With products like soy sauce or fish sauce, you get all of the umami that's liberated from proteins in a concentrated form that you only need a pinch of to be able to dress up vegetables as if they were as delicious as the richest steak. So we're just going to start off with a bit of garlic and ginger, finely minced, a few radishes, a couple colors of carrots, baby eggplant, and lob off a few florets of Romanesco and purple and classical white. The world itself would just be a better place, and humanity far healthier if everyone just ate more cabbage, fermented or not. But there's also a reason why cabbage ferments so well. I mean, cabbages are kind of like the dogs of the vegetable world to humanity. We've managed to breed them into every conceivable shape and for every conceivable use. Now we have all our veg here. We've got our 2 pans. I'm gonna use a heavy cast iron pan to sear the tempeh, treating it basically like you would steak, and a saute pan to cook the veg. I'm just gonna season it with a bit of salt. This isn't gonna be a complicated dish, but nonetheless, it's going to be absolutely delicious and a really fresh way to eat. Just a few tablespoons of vegetable oil. Same thing for the pan in which we're going to saute our veg. All right, we're just gonna season the tempeh. And in the pan it goes. So you got a nice sizzle. I'm basically treating this like I would a piece of meat. And once it's in, I'm gonna turn the heat down slightly and let it sear until it's golden brown. Then into my saute pan as this cooks, just throw in my eggplant, give that a sear first. All right, we've got a nice browning on our eggplant, our onions, garlic and ginger. Give that a nice saute. Let's see how our tempeh is doing and give that a flip. Beautiful. Nice and golden. And as these start to brown, we'll add in both our radishes and carrots, our cauliflower and Romanesco as well. I'm just gonna start off by adding in a little bit of fish sauce, which is going to, just a teaspoon, which will add enough flavor to kind of not overpower this saute, but lace it with this animal fermentiness that kind of allows you to feel really satisfied when you eat these vegetables. And then finally, maybe a tablespoon of soy. So we're really harnessing umami here to make these vegetables taste as impressive as they are. Our tempeh is now beautifully golden seared on both sides. I'm just gonna take it out of the pan. Some freshly chopped chives to finish off our sauteing. Beautifully glazed, lightly caramelized. I also didn't need to add any additional salt to these vegetables because that's all coming from the ferments that already have it pre-included. There you have it. A clever way to use fermentation to your benefit, to help retrain your taste buds, to help yourself eat more healthy for your body and your microbiome, employing fermentation to great effect.
Part of the role of the gut microbiome is to train the immune system to understand, is this good, is this bad? Is this a bacteria that's a problem that's going to invade and cause an infection? Or is this a gut bacteria that's actually helping the person digest food and I want to leave it alone and let it do its work?
One of the realizations in biomedicine is that pretty much all chronic diseases of the Western world are associated with a dysbiosis of the gut microbiome. Dysbiosis is kind of a catch-all term for when the gut microbiome has changed its composition or function into something that is driving a disease state or is unhealthy. So we say a dysbiotic gut microbiome when somebody has a microbiome that's gone off track. And once you have an ecosystem that's been decimated, suddenly weeds can take root and take over. And that's actually what we're seeing in the industrialized microbiome, is that there's new species cropping up that typically aren't associated with humans. And we have no idea what they're doing, but we do know that a lot of chronic inflammatory diseases are on the rise. The gut microbiome, when it's in a healthy state, is producing all sorts of molecules that's actually attenuating the inflammation. So keeping the immune system nice and calm so that you don't have this chronic inflammation.
As our understanding of microbes have grown, we've realized that the bad bacteria, these bacteria that cause disease, are actually a very small proportion of the microbes that surround us.
And I think one of the things that has a lot of people frustrated is just how sick everyone is getting over time. As the industrialized lifestyle spreads around the globe, we see Western diseases spreading as well. And so thinking about just rewriting the rules for how society takes care of our gut microbiome may do a huge amount for combating disease down the road. One of the incredible statistics about the gut microbiome is that we actually harbor more microbes in our bodies than we have human cells. And so by cell number, we're actually more microbial than we are human. And that's really captured in this image that's a cross-section of the colon. And we can see three distinct sections of this. We have host tissue, the blue area up here. Those are colonocytes. That's the actual gut tissue of the host. We actually have a green mucus layer. So this is what we secrete to keep the microbes at a safe distance, make sure that they're in the right spot. And then these are gut microbes out here. So each one of those little colorful rods there is a different bacterial cell. And you can immediately see how dense this community is, how complex it is. Just, we have this gut environment that is teeming with multitude of microbes. And the question is, how do you foster diversity in this community for better health?
Our microbes rely on food. We have to provide food for them. Dietary fiber is really their preferred food source. So if you eat a diet that's very rich in dietary fiber, they can use those carbohydrates to fuel their own metabolism.
But what is dietary fiber? And basically it's just eating a bunch of plant material. So if you eat a lot of whole grains and beans and vegetables, nuts, fruits, you're going to be actually feeding your gut microbiome. And that's going to be not only a diverse microbiome, but one that's less likely to eat your mucus layer. If you eat a diet that's not microbiota friendly, then your gut microbes turn to your mucus layer as their primary food source, and they'll actually erode that mucus layer and start to incite inflammation in your gut.
And as that mucus lining erodes, the microbes get closer and closer to the colon cells. The human immune system really starts to get worried. Like, these microbes are just getting too close. There's a real risk that they could invade the tissue there and cause infection. And so they start releasing hormones and chemicals to really ramp up inflammation and fight those microbes, keep them back inside the colon tube that they're supposed to live in, and keep them away from the colonic wall where the microbes are slowly encroaching.
If we're talking about getting ourselves to eat healthier, to eat for our microbiome, and to improve our health outcomes, we also have to talk about what we drink, because that is a huge part of it, especially in North America. I grew up drinking lots of soda, and as I've aged, I've realized that I don't love it. We drink it because it's chock full of sugar, sometimes up to 10 or 15%, when there are other things that are more healthful for us that we could be drinking. And for me, lots of those things are fermented. Kombucha for me is something that everyone should know how to make because of how simple it is, but also for what it offers you. I've made kombucha from everything from mango pulp to coffee to passion fruit juice, you name it. Today we'll be making a hibiscus and jasmine tea kombucha. So on the stove, we have about 7 cups of water coming up to a boil. And we're just here. We're going to add 3/4 of a cup of sugar. The bacteria, the yeast are going to consume it, turn it into other molecules that your body will find useful and fascinating, and you lower the sugar content drastically, often by half or 2/3 by the time the kombucha is done. Now that this is up, we're going to cut the heat and toss in our hibiscus flowers. That was about 3 ounces. And our jasmine tea. That was 1 ounce. And I'm just going to give it a stir and allow it to steep. Once it has steeped, we're going to strain it off and then allow it to cool down to room temperature before we start working with it. We're just going to strain it. And all those flowers have bloomed in the liquid. It smells amazing. And that deep red color, again, a tribute to all of the healthy antioxidants and molecules in the tea. It's important to understand what mechanisms are at play to ferment kombucha at all. A SCOBY, what this is a symbiotic colony of bacteria and yeast. That's what that acronym means. The microbes literally build themselves a little house, a little life raft that floats to the top of your bottle of kombucha and brings them into contact with oxygen. If the bacteria is healthy and your kombucha is fermenting well, you're not going to have large quantities of alcohol. Generally, kombuchas will be between 0.2 to 1% alcohol. Now we have our preservation jar. I'm just going to transfer the now cooled liquid. It's important that while this is an 8-cup jar, we add 7 cups of water to start off with. One of the tools at our disposal for the safe fermentation of this ferment is acid. We need to include a sizable portion of previous kombucha to lower the pH down from what's neutral, or the pH of water at around 7, to around 5.5. We're going to give the microbes responsible for making this ferment a leg up while keeping out pathogens. Kombucha is unfortunately one of those ferments where if you don't have old kombucha, you cannot make kombucha. I would not recommend using kombucha you buy from a grocery store. Sometimes those kombuchas are pasteurized to improve the shelf life or make sure that they don't change. Remove the SCOBY from this kombucha. Here it is in all its glory. Looks a little yucky, really isn't, is quite fantastic. And all of the new kind of threads and strands it's made. And we're going to measure out about a half a cup of this old kombucha to add to our new batch. In with our old kombucha, we've instantly lowered the pH. In with our old SCOBY to give a nice healthy dose of that inoculum. And as it ferments, it will kind of become this big fat disc the longer it lives and breathes. Now, as I mentioned, kombuchas do need to breathe to ferment, so we're just going to use a piece of cheesecloth to keep flies or pests out, and we're going to leave this on the counter for anywhere from 6 to 10 days, depending on how hot it is in your surroundings. You know your kombucha is ready to be bottled when it tastes pleasant. And sure, the first time you make it, you might not know when it tastes good to you. But as you get more acquainted with this ferment, as you make it a couple of times, you'll figure out what you like. In my opinion, if it is room temperature inside your apartment or your household, leaving it on for 7 to 8 days is kind of the sweet spot before bottling it. We're just going to strain out any last bits of the kombucha SCOBY. Now that we have that, and using a funnel, we're going to bottle it up. Now, it is frothing because even though this is open to the air, the yeast and the bacteria in this product are producing carbon dioxide. What we're doing here in bottling it, especially in a swing top bottle, is we're gonna trap that gas inside. But you also do want some headroom when you do bottle kombucha so that that gas has space to build up before carbonating the actual liquid. If it was completely full, you might end up with some nasty explosions in your fridge and some big messes to clean up. So always leave a little bit of headroom. Here's a batch that's been hanging out in the fridge for about a week. Now, the longer this sits in the fridge, the more that residual sugar will ferment and build up, but it still does have a nice little bit of bubble, a little bit of head, and when you drink it, it's pleasantly effervescent on the tongue. It's like a vegetal red wine. It's completely balanced, delicious, complex. You taste the notes of jasmine, the hibiscus, and the tannins from all of those polyphenols as well. This is something that I would absolutely love to drink with dinner, and something I would want to savor. Cheers to that. Humanity's relationship with microbes, especially as it pertains to food, is one of a well-tuned and long-lasting ecosystem. Old friends that have grown up together, like lichen and trees, or oxpeckers and elephants. There's the sorts of relationships that pop up in nature, symbioses, that see both parties, or all parties involved, thrive for longer together. And I think that as we kind of have lost fermentation in favor of mechanical preservation or pasteurization or convenience in ultra-processed foods, we've kind of forgotten these friendships in nature that we've crafted, that we've taken part in over thousands of years, over evolutionary history. And that change isn't a good relationship to break up with. Yeah, do I think that getting back to that friendship is good for humanity, good for the world entire? Yeah, I absolutely do.
I mean, this is everything that my gut bacteria is wanting to consume.
A carrot that's, covered in dirt, but underneath there's incredible fiber for your gut microbiome, but also just incredible flavor.
This hyper-sanitized lifestyle, it's basically declaring war on microbes.
The future is getting brighter and brighter as more people wake up to these foods and realize how delicious they are and good for them. Kimchi and sauerkraut are probably some of the two most prevalent ferments you can find in grocery stores.